Welcome to the Friday Power Lunch, a weekly show amplifying the voices of the Virginia grassroots. Each week, we provide engaging conversations about politics, culture, and women making change. Produced by the unstoppable women of Network Nova, our motto is, when we vote, we win. The Friday Power Lunch is recorded before a live Zoom audience. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and show us some love and become a sponsor through Patreon. The Friday Power Lunch. Badass women getting things done.
It is June 10th, and welcome. Yes, you are on the Friday Power Lunch. I hope you have your cowboy boots on today. I'm Katherine White, your host of the weekly Friday Power Lunch, the show bringing you the guests, the issues, and the action, all in this great big room. It's so great to see you all here. We are amplifying the voice of the grassroots to get things done and to make things fun. So let's get perked up, ready to go. Hope you have your coffee, or maybe you're on your third cup of coffee like me. I'm so excited to bring our first guest up, introduce them. Rachel BITECOFER, political science, election forecaster, and an analyst, founder of StrikePac, host of podcast The Election Whisperer, and now, again, back on the Power Lunch. How are you doing? How are you feeling this morning?
I'm doing really well. I'm recovering from running a digital war room effort last night during the hearing. So
I can't wait to hear about that. Do you have your coffee? Are you ready?
I am. I'm always ready. I was born ready.
I know you were born ready, sister. Okay, I'm so glad because there's so much to talk about, and this room is just ripe to hear it. And especially when we talk about these kind of solutions or what we need to do to make sure that we can sort of turn this midterm effect maybe to our favor. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say about a lot of things today. So thank you for being here. All righty. We're next up, E.J. Scott, chair of the Virginia Black Caucus. E.J. is here today. How are you doing, E.J.?
I'm doing just wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. I'm glad you're here also. I'm excited to talk about, Fennell Norton will be talking to you about Juneteenth and other things that the Virginia Black Caucus has on their minds, and maybe
our 16th year.
The 16th year.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So really looking forward to that discussion. So thank you for coming in, and you're looking great.
Thank you.
Yeah. All righty then. So super. So a little show business, we always like to start with our show business. The rules of the road: use the chat to communicate. This is the place to kind of make friends. And we have Michelle McKinney here. She is the chat person that will help you if you have any questions, if you're new to the room, and you can see her up there, right there. You can sort of chat right to her. Hello, Michelle. And then, but you get nasty or get out of control, Stair will bounce you out. So just keep that fun, and also good communication is always important. And also our favorite part, stick around for the after chat. That's the favorite part. We have so many great things to share, and there's so many marches. There's marches this weekend for March for Our Lives. Then there's the Poor People's Campaign on the 18th. Can't keep up with all the marches, but we know that the after chat is where we can share all that good information. And lastly, hey, support the show. We're a Patreon. You can be a patron and support the Friday Power Lunch. And thank you. If you have your mug, you can show it. If you sign up, you will get a mug. So here you go. So thank you for that support. It really allows us to do our work. So speaking of support, a couple years ago, we got into action in 2017. Rachel BITECOFER came on my radar. And then when she started recently with her new StrikePac, I became a subscriber to her to support her work because I really believe that she knows what she's talking about. So let's bring her up just to get things started. Good to see you.
It's good to be here. And I should specify, I left StrikePac on April 1. It's still an organization. It's still doing work, but I left so I could work with any campaigns and candidates directly.
Well, tell me then, though, why don't we do this? Tell us what your you are doing? Are you just doing your political analyst stuff through just
No,
you?
not at all. No, I'm very busy at trying to infiltrate as much as possible and centralize the Democrats' strategy for the fall midterms. As you guys know, I was trying to tell Virginia, hey, I know it felt like, like we had this great plan and it worked and we executed it, but it also was buffered by this thing called the midterm effect, right? And it is just a sad, horrible reality of our electorate that now these advantages have shifted. So what I'm trying to do is make sure the National Party is running as much messaging as possible that is focused on on defining the Republican Party, bringing to the forefront what their crazy activities are, right? Because average people don't even know, and they just think we're low taxes and they're going to fix gas, right? So our job is to inform them of the lowest hanging, most awful parts of the Republican Party platform, and
which you say is so many.
No, I mean it is, but you want to. But the thing is like, our party has always been hampered by the fact that it's coalitionally organized and not ideologically organized. Right. So, where we run into coordination issues is, okay, well, are we going to maximize the efficacy of the effort or the representation of the voices involved? Transaction and coordination costs that you pay for that organizational principle. And the Republican Party has always been organized around ideology, but the last 20 years, the party shifted that strategy to an ideology that's really just based on opposition party ire, right? So they're organized now around hating us and fearing us, right? So that's what we're working up against. And I left StrikePac because I wanted a war machine to wage war. In Virginia, I had two very powerful ads that I could barely put on anywhere. And would have been, what did these ads do? These ads painted a picture of what will happen if people don't vote for Democrats in Virginia. Right. And you'll be living under a regime of a modern Republican. And this is what modern Republicanism looks like, voter, yes. Right? So at the end of the day, I'm making as much impact on the messages and targeting strategies that get deployed in our 51 and 218 map that to hold Congress against very hard odds.
That makes me really happy to hear that. So are you kind of coordinating with the DNC, or I'm just curious when you're saying are they listening to you? That's all I want to make sure.
Yes, they're listening to me.
Good. That's awesome.
It's a long process and I can't really be specific about it.
That's okay. Not here to talk really about that. It's more like chitty chat, but I am interested. We can talk about so many things. One thing I want to know, talking about Virginia, and you're so right, because that law set the stage that they were able to sort of launch more of this from. If we would have been able to hold some of that seats and all that, it would have been possibly a different story. And that was really, but that was really, it's just really depressing. But candidates do matter in this also. Messaging matters and candidates matter. And the thing that a lot of people didn't know outside Virginia is that the candidate here, the Democrat, ran a terrible campaign. And a lot of that was really not getting out the vote, not going into areas of voting. So a lot of those just one-on-one mechanics of campaigning weren't present. Yeah. So, we're working on that. But let's get to you. Let's talk about last night. Did you watch the January 6th? What are your takeaways, and what does this look like in favor of Democrats, or how would you, as a political analyst looking at voting behavior, what kind of effect or impacts are you thinking any of this will have?
Well, let's separate the impacts and effects for a second and just talk about what we learned last night. Last night we learned that our sitting president at the time, Republican President Donald Trump, organized a 7-point coup conspiracy on multiple fronts. And when they started to fail one by one, these 7 efforts, he devised, 6, he devised the 7th, which was armed insurrection at the Capitol. Okay. And we found out that the Proud Boys were down there positioning and breaking in through the barrier before Trump stopped talking, and really long before Trump stopped talking, and softened the exterior security perimeter of the Capitol for when the rest of the mob came, right? And then now we know that he sat there and refused to exercise his sole response authority. And to the point where a group of people had to look at each other in a moment of crisis and decide on 3 points. Should we break the chain of command and allow Pence to direct the armed forces? That is not something that's in the constitutional fucking order at all. Okay?
Right.
That's crazy, right?
Right.
Or should we invoke the 25th Amendment, remove him from office, and then do that, which is obviously the right answer. Okay.
Right.
And or 3, do we just let the Capitol fall and see if the government falls, right? So those are not good options. None of the 3. I do think 2 is better than 1, but let's just be happy they didn't go with 3.
Right.
And so I think it's really important for people to understand. To you, a lot of that we dribbled out over time. And so we were told we're going to see evidence that it was an intentional insurrection. It wasn't a riot out of hand, that Trump, was involved in it, blah, blah, blah. So we have an expectation of, revelation, right? That a Republican president sent an armed militia to the Congress to try to seize control of the government. It doesn't get any more revelatory than that, right? And now we know that the very high seditious conspiracy charges that we've seen for these 2 Proud Boy leaders, or 5 Proud Boy leaders, that are extraordinarily high bars in the courtroom to hit, probably are going to be a hit with Donald Trump.
Right. So then if you talk about the impacts, or did this be the unknowns kind of? We don't know.
No, here's a really good thing, and I want to kind of plug it. It's because I have left StrikePac. It's a super PAC. It was so yesterday I deployed. It's not by a group. It doesn't have any branding on it or logo or anything like that. I deployed a digital toolkit, which is a prototype for what I want to build for the midterms. That is going to. So this digital toolkit was focused exclusively on the hearings, and it will be used through this next month over the hearings. It's called republicantreason.net if people want to go check it out. And what it's doing is it's allowing users to come in and get right now, this beta version's just memes, but get meme messaging that I've helped create that brands the Republican Party and gets the most important info of this committee process out into the digital space, right? But the ultimate goal is to turn this thing in to a resource that's basically going to allow candidates, campaigns, groups like yours, other IEs, individuals, whoever, to come in and access direct mailer stuff, access campaign ads, access memes for digital door knocking, which is a concept that I'm trying to teach people to think of the internet as potential doors, right? And so digital door kits. And when you think about what I wanted to do in Virginia, and just for the benefit of everyone on the call, I wanted to come into Virginia and build the strategy I'm trying to deploy here nationally in the swing map. And what that entailed was 2 things: a referendum message focused squarely on defining modern Republican Party and making voters afraid of it. Okay. And then the other thing was about inversing how campaigns are resourced. So everything went to the McAuliffe campaign. And as we all know, they were not smart about how they did it. Okay? But that's everywhere. The marquee race gets all the resource, and then we trickle down whatever the hell is left over. And what I was trying to tell them is, look, I know everything worked like that you did in 18 and 19 and whatever, 17, but now we don't have enthusiasm. We don't have the generic ballot. So what we should do is, we know Hampton Roads, those House of Delegate districts are going to be the weak ones.
Right.
We should go in and fortify and build our statewide operation up from our weakest links. And that's exactly what they did, by the way. And they hit presidential turnout in their best precincts, right? So anyway,
but you're right
about think about Virginia, all of the House candidates. The finale was probably
that's okay. It's an Italian that Edith Van
struggling. Like, she had no money, right? So like, imagine being able to go in, get BITECOFER quality campaign ads that you can pull, and then you add your own, disclaimer to. So it's not like it's coming from a group, it's coming from you.
Right.
And all of the House candidates, the state Senate candidates, the federal House candidates, the Senate statewide, the governors are all hammering the Republican Party on one message, right?
Right.
So that's what I'm working on now, guys.
That's good, because what you talked about, it's this strategic. The Republicans have really, really good at strategy, that strategic arm. And it's funny because I already saw they know what's coming up with the January 6th committee hearing. So they've already planned a huge strategy around how they're going to try to knock that out of the airways, not show it on Fox. So they're always kind of thinking about this, right?
Yeah.
The strategy and planning, and you talk about that sort of is something Democrats have to get better at, the strategy part. And so let's talk about this midterm effect. Tee that up for people. We know of course, people understand that, but let's get into it from your perspective. And now that when we are looking for these maybe unknowns, we saw the abortion, the Alito leak document, we see the gun violence issue. There's some things and some drivers that may now get voters kind of waking up. How does a midterm affect, if you want to explain that, and then how do these new indicators we're looking at, from your perspective, what do you think that effect will be?
Yeah, so the midterm effect is the tendency for the president's party to lose seats in the subsequent midterm, which happens midterm to the 4-year term, hence the name midterm. Okay, and it's a pattern that's only been interrupted twice in more than 40 years. Okay, and but like what I try to get people to understand, where I came out in the scene in 17 and 18 with when I first came out with my theory, was to say, listen, that midterm effect is powered by two things. It's a conversion pool problem. So as soon as you become the party in power, you become the status quo. Mm-hmm. And in our system, which is a very sick system right now, especially, you're never able to do what you say you're going to do, especially if you're a Democrat, because the Republican strategy is to deny any victory so that the base will get depressed and angry and not show up. It worked in the other midterms, so they're replicating that strategy now, right?
Right.
And so, like that, we call that the expectations gap, the gap between what people have to promise to win election and what they can actually deliver institutionally, right? So that causes this conversion pool to it might be 55-45 when Trump was in office, and then it just, I argue, predictably will invert the other way. And of course, that's exactly what we saw in Virginia. And, you guys were the first, right? So I was trying to get the country to understand Virginia is competitive. It can easily flip because it's still this turnout, this conversion pool difference. So the other thing is enthusiasm in polling data. And you could see that as soon as Trump was elected, Democrats are like, I'm voting, I'm super jazzed to vote. And when you compare to how many Democrats and right and left-leaning indies in my polling data, I would do that, right?
Right.
The leaners too, compared to the Republican leaners, we could see this huge advantage for Democrats, right? It was very clear they were agitated. And my theory argued, look, it's because negative partisanship, and when the opposition party is in power, especially when it's Donald Trump, and he's basically face fucking you every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, it's on turbo, right? I mean, it's turbo negative partisanship. And so what I argued starting in November, December, even while Trump was still trying to do the coup, I was like, listen, Virginia is 1 year away. And what's going to happen right away is you're going to see these inversions. You're going to see generic ballot flip to them. You're going to see enthusiasm gap flip to them. And the size of that gap at 10 points, even in March, told me we have a big problem coming and let us fortify it, right? So I put out on my blog, the cycle on Substack, an analysis that talks about these mechanics and how they've been disrupted. And like the one lesson that we can take is the most recent disruption, because the polarized electorate is a very small time period. And it's not, these cross time of comparisons you hear to shit, just discount it. Okay. Cause like the electorate from 2010 on is completely different beast. 2002 is as close as we can get to it though. And in that cycle, what was gonna happen was that W was going to head into that midterm having stolen the presidency by judicial fiat, okay? And he sucked. I mean, like they did the tax cut shit and it put us immediately into a recession, which of course was also timed with bad luck, because that's what happens, right? So in any case, that party was headed to a bruising midterm effect, okay? And then 9/11 happened.
9/11.
And once 9/11 happened, which is by the way, a year later when the election is held, so it's a long effect. It changed the conversation away from the Republican Party and the party in power and domestic politics to this national security threat. So I say, like this is the best approach that we can make. I'm not trying to depress people when I tell them the reality of the fundamentals. What I'm trying to do is empower them. Because the fundamentals are real, okay? And we have two choices on how to deal with them. We can bury our heads in the sand like ostriches, and we can say, well, I saw this poll that said this, or these polls are always wrong, or this, or whatever the fuck we want to say to make ourselves feel better, right? but that doesn't change the basic fact. We have two data indicators that we can track. We will know if we're going to survive 2022 because we will move these two indicators, right? And if we don't move them, then we're in trouble. So the reason I'm wrapping that around is to tell you that with Roe, the evisceration of Roe and the shooting in Uvalde, but especially this Roe thing, like we saw immediate movement in data, right? Because that's what I care about is it in the data, right? And even though it seemed like everybody and your brother had heard about Roe being eviscerated, I promise you guys it did not break through that well. It broke through far better than anything from January 6th ever did, any of the impeachment shit, okay? It got to a level that stuff normally does not penetrate unless it's a mass shooting at an elementary school. But when the decision actually comes, which will be this month, the Obergefell and Holmes decision in 2013, there was a big circus outside of DC, right? This Roe decision, I mean, I try to think about like the pandemonium that's going to build as this decision sitting on the docket and the other things are dropping and we're waiting. It strips women of full citizenship. That's what this does, right? Okay. I like to make shit plain and dig it down to basics, right? It's not about reproductive freedom and we could have those conversations, but why? Because the politics is they are making women legally unequal to men. Men can control your body, women you cannot. Okay? And so I think there's real potential for us to change the narrative, tying all this rights conversation together, right? So it's about democracy, it's about rights. We need to campaign on each individual issue. We need to macro and make our messaging thematically strong and tie all of these interests into one cause. And that cause is to avoid falling into fascism. Well, I'm so sorry, but I'm like almost completely out of time.
I know you are. And I saw Don Scott last night at the pro-choice gala. And he said, I told Don Scott, the new leader of the House caucus, I said, I'm having you on the show. He goes, ask her that message for the bumper sticker, which you always get asked. So on the top of your head before you leave, we have messaging people in this group. What is that? Everybody says we don't know how to message. What is that?
For a bumper sticker, I would put GOP, tax cuts and treason.
There you
go. Or tax hikes and treason.
That's a good one. All right. Well, I know you have to pop off, and we will definitely just keep in touch and watch what you're doing, because I'm interested in connecting with you about this digital toolbox. Is it up and ready? Can you?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, this is a beta version and it's focused on Jan 6. So what we end up, it's republicantreason.net.
Well, I love it. Okay, republicantreason.net.
Yeah, and we're going to use this to brand them to say its name. Okay, it's treason.
I agree with you, because I think when I say we need to say it, and the branding, they're good at I can't talk. I know you have to go. At just killing our brand, and we need to make sure that we brand them, as we said.
I see this toolkit project as potentially a game changer in terms of resourcing. You guys are the most important resource, by the way. And I'm not saying that to fluff I'm telling you, people like you are the most fucking important resource we have. And my mission in life is to make sure that gets optimized and that you guys get the support that you've never had.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Thank you, Rachel BITECOFER, election whisperer, the forecaster, wonderful, awesome.
Prolific cusser.
I like to cuss too, so we're in good company. See you later. Thank you for coming. Oh my gosh. So a lot there that we will definitely unpack. Finale, what do you think? Let's bring Finale up, our show messenger.
Well, of course,
what's on your mind? Go ahead.
Yeah. So I love this conversation that you guys were just having, especially about messaging and about how we're feeling. So I have to share this. I was reading an article this week, and in the article, it was actually Senator Bernie Sanders. And in the article, this is the article, and millions and millions and millions of people get this article. And it said, Senator Sanders believes that even with Roe v. Wade being overturned, that Democrats are not going to be enthusiastic enough, and that the House the House will be lost, and potentially the Senate. And so immediately I jumped on my TikTok, because I just couldn't bear it. And the point was this is what I said. I said, just because we're not crawling on top of buildings like ants doesn't mean we're not enthusiastic, because if we crawled on buildings like ants, they shoot us down. But that's another story. But my whole point is that as a party, we're bewildered. We're just bewildered and don't know what to do. And everybody's like, oh, I don't know what to say. It's easy. You just talk to them like they talk to us. And it's easy. Look around you, your family, your friends. Are they enthusiastic? Are they engaged? Are they talking? And if they're not, nobody else is. So it has to come from us. And yes, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's all messed up, but it's us.
No, I agree. And I think the messaging and going strong, I was talking last night to some of the leaders at the pro-choice gala, and I think that is really key, because when you go strong, you go bold, you do win. I think we've seen seats won by that kind of progressive branding, and it doesn't mean you go crazy. You tell the truth. And like Rachel BITECOFER said, the truth is there. All these things are there. And it's what they do is decimate the Democratic brand. That's their goal every day. They offer nothing. So why talk about policy? You can say you're doing stuff. They're not getting anything done, but it really is, it is kind of, you feel defeated sometimes when you open the paper, and it seems like the media just wants to also perpetuate this idea that we're going to not do well against a party who facilitated an insurrection, who perpetuated the big lie, who's overturning all our rights. Let's give them a chance.
Yeah, you're gonna love this. Here's what it says. The mainstream media depicts the Democratic Party as depressed, discouraged, and predicting their own defeat in November. That is not me. And that is not us on this phone.
So I want to say one thing, because I want to say, Robin, is Louisa here?
Louisa's here.
Yeah, let me bring her up. You are. So I was thinking you weren't, because your screen was off. Pop on in this discussion. Let's get Louisa up here. But before we go to the grassroots update, I want to say one thing that Rachel's words spoke to me is this idea how we do get depressed. This kind of idea, it's a strategy for the Republicans are using when we see the battle over policy. They want to stop us at every move, not to pass voting rights, women's rights, whatever it is. The goal is they're doing that to make you mad. And they're doing that so you don't like your own party and you start to sort of bitchy bitch. That's the goal. And that's what we have to realize. This isn't like, oh, our party is this and this. This is the strategy they're using. So you just go, I don't care. I'm staying home. So I just want to just get that out there for now.
I know, and this is the last thing that I'll say is the other thing is that we have to stop treating ourselves like we're dum-dums. And what I mean by that is that we know that inflation and prices are high and gasoline is high. And when someone says that to us, we're just like, no, it doesn't matter who is the president. This is what would happen. We just came out of a pandemic. So I don't care if it was Ronald Reagan or Lyndon Johnson, we would still be sitting in this space. So what we have to do is know better than that to say, just because that happens doesn't mean that we're going to put those 50 num-nums in charge of us. That's not winning.
No, and isn't it? And stripping women of their citizenship. These are kind of things that rather getting in a debate about abortion, it's really making women second-class citizens. So with that, I want to turn the grassroots over to the grassroots best leader, Louisa Borowski. Good to see you, my friend. Go take it away.
Well, so given the context that we just discussed about don't get depressed, I'm going to say, don't get depressed, just act, right? So we use activism therapy. And if you feel like you have not been happy with the way things were going this past week, I've got some fantastic action for you to take. So the first is this morning, I went and I voted. And it is so important to remember that this primary matters. We have important elections that we get to decide who the Democrat is going to be running in our areas. So please make sure you know who is on your ballot and make sure your friends, your neighbors, everyone's going out to vote because, I live in Arlington and we have a primary for our congressional representative. And it's really important that you decide who do you want to represent you in Congress, because this primary is going to decide who wins the election. We know that the Democrat is going to win. So this is the important decision-making point. So make sure you vote. Final day to vote is the 21st, Tuesday, but obviously there's early voting. I went this morning and it was super simple. So please make sure to vote. So that's step one. Step two, we've got some important calls to action. The first is the House of Representatives passed the Protecting Our Kids Act, which addresses a number of areas of gun violence prevention. We now need to do everything we possibly can to let our senators know that we expect them not only to vote for this bill, but to get some of their Republican colleagues to do so as well. This is going to be a tough uphill battle to get this bill passed. But you know what, guys? We have got to do everything we can. I know we say this every time there's a major shooting, but it passed the House so quickly and with 5 Republicans voting for it. There's a chance, and we need to do all we can to get in front of our legislators. Secondly, call to action, stopping the environmental injustice and inequity on African-American communities. This is happening in the Brown Grove community, and we have a one-click call to action for you to ask our senators to actually go and visit, show up, show that this is an issue that matters and that they are willing to hear from citizens about the impact that these changes are having on their lives personally. And then the third one is a call to action on demanding climate transparency. The SEC is considering some important changes, and we want to make sure they hear from us on what we believe should be the recommendations for moving forward in terms of climate transparency. So those are all in the chat. Easy one clicks. They're already recommended emails that you can send out, so it should be pretty simple. And then the next thing is March for Our Lives. I don't know if you guys talked about that earlier, but there's obviously the one in DC, but we also have a fantastic one in Loudoun County. So I'm going to put links to both of those. it is a great opportunity, not only to show how important this issue is to us as citizens, but also just to reconnect with other people. Both of these events are going to be fantastic. So hopefully you can choose to go to one of them coming up tomorrow. And then the last thing I have is I'm doing my second plug for our canvassing in Virginia Beach. We are going to have a grassroots action weekend, the July 16 and 17. And the reason I'm reminding people is because it's hard to get a hotel on the beach in the summer. So we want to make sure that you sign up. If you need supporter housing, we need to know so that we can try to hook you up with a local person who has an extra bedroom. So please, please consider coming down to the beach. As you already heard, as Rachel said, we know where these challenging races are going to be, and that's where it is. So we need to help out. We need to get on doors early and remind people and let them know how important it is that they're voting not only in the congressional election down there, but also there are a ton of local elections that are going to be critical for that area this year as well.
Yeah, so I'm curious. I'm glad we're going down early. I'm so glad we're going early on doors. And I know we have Virginia Beach people in here. So I saw Susan Potter go, yay. What is, in the sense of Democratic Party of Virginia and plans, registering voters, what are you, when you're speaking with them, what is going on that we can help with or that they're doing across Virginia for this election?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm going to have to chat with them again about registering specifically, if that's the interest area. I know that they are, they already have someone who is focusing on the Virginia Beach area and trying to support also the local candidates down there because they see this as a work across the ballot strategy, which I think is fantastic. The challenge with, of course, the Democratic Party of Virginia is that they have a gap in leadership at the top. Andrew Whitley is still the executive director until probably around July 1. They are interviewing candidates now. He's hoping they're going to get someone in the next week or two so that there'll be overlap, that they can work together. He did promise me when I talked to him this week, though, that don't worry, Louisa, I am not leaving Virginia. I'm already talking to our candidates for 2023. And so he is already thinking about what is our 2023 strategy.
Yes, we need, because that's the big one. We're setting the groundwork, obviously, all the way through. Well, Thank you, my friend. And I'm excited. And we're going to talk about the Women's Summit a couple of minutes here because this is all working together because, this year, the Women's Summit, as usual, like last year, was not just one event. It was 3 in-person events. Plus, we're building that online community that when you get a ticket, you'll be put into this great new online community that we want to build so everybody across Virginia could join it. And we can really share our information, resources, do programming through it. So we're really excited about that. I want to say thank you to one of our top sponsors, Clean Virginia, is all in for the Women's Summit, and they are all in for Democracy sponsor, as well as we also thank all the sponsors that are in the room. I want to see if we can bring up the slides for the Women's Summit, because we're only a couple weeks away from the Nova one at the Ernst Cultural Community Center. We're really getting excited about that, but we also then are really getting our hiking shoes on in August 12th and 13th to go to the Rural Valley, and then we'll go get our bathing suits on, some of us, for the Tidewater down on September 16th, and we'll be doing some canvassing. But Friday night gets kicked off at the Rowan Tree, and we will have, it's all in for education. We'll have the Board of Supervisors, the school board members out there, Julie Briskman, Atusa Reeser, Delegate Irene Shin is gonna be out there. We have teacher Jessica Berg, and several other people. I don't want to mention them all here because we don't have a lot of time, but this will be really a great kickoff on Friday. Fun socializing, but we are going to talk about how important it is that we go on the offensive with the public school attacks. And now we see the kids can't even feel safe in school with gun violence. This is just awful. So we're going to be talking about that. And then on Saturday morning, make sure you're there. You can get in the doors. If you bought your ticket at 8:30 to register, we will kick off right at 9:30 with Abigail Spanberger and this whole team of Prince William Power people. And we're very excited to have everybody in room for that. And then we will have the afternoon stage with singer-songwriters Heather May and Chris Matthews, and then some inspirational speakers. It's okay. I can't follow along here. Lastly, yeah, there they are right there. Chris Matthews. And then also, if you want to look great, we have some swag. Do you want to show the swag, Robin? There it is. Some merch, good t-shirts, good fun pants. And this will be a lot of fun. We love to wear our swag. And then go back to the ERA one, Robin, sorry. And then this is really cool. We are going to have the Artists for ERA display there at both events in Nova. So how cool is that? Thank you to Vote Equality for bringing these 10 wonderful pieces of art for people to see, to get us inspired. Thank you to Katie Hornig and all the folks working on that. So look, buy your ticket today. We need to know you're coming because Heather Booth is going to be there. And let's show that real quick. Do we have time to show the Janes? I think we do. Heather Booth really got me back into the pocket about being excited to be an organizer. I heard her speak the other day. The issue around what she did and how she believes that organizing is the big key to win. And she was one of the Janes, if you caught it on HBO. So let's show that trailer. I saw that the other night. I don't know if anybody else in the room saw it, but Heather Booth will be at the summit. I'm going to say it is the most amazing. To hear her speak is just amazing. And that she had the bravery and the courage to find this. And that's what we have to have in this moment to stand up to really illegitimate power that's taking our rights away. And we got to fight. So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Fennell and let's talk about getting into some good, I don't want to say fights, but a good guest, E.J. Scott. He's been fighting for equal rights, civil rights, racial justice. Let's get her on. Here she is, and I'll pop out.
All right, wonderful. Let's see, EJ.
Hello.
Hi, EJ. So happy to get a chance to chat with you today.
Thank
So
you.
how about we do this? You've already been introduced, and I know you're going to talk about Juneteenth, and I'm delighted to hear about that. But I want to start somewhere else. Don Scott as the new caucus leader. How did you feel about that? How do you feel about that? He's the first Black caucus leader that you guys have had for the minority. So what do you think?
Yes, he is the first Black caucus leader. But that, if you look at the overall, Charnel is also still the caucus leader for there. So we've got two Blacks that are heads of the state's Democratic Party.
There you go. Awesome. And we can't have you here and not ask you what you think about the confirmation of Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson. I want to get your take on that too.
Whenever I think of that, I always get so full of emotions because it is something that I think will really change how a lot of young Black women and Black boys will see themselves. And so it's an inspiration. It is just something that I think will really make a difference.
Yeah, me too. It fills me up too. And to think about what she talks about, perseverance, is something that everybody feels, but for her, I'm sure it was quite different, but I really wanted to hear what you had to say about that. So we're going to talk about Juneteenth and we're going to talk about the Black Caucus. So why don't we start with the mission of the Black Caucus and then we'll roll right into Juneteenth celebrations and what you guys are planning.
Well, the Democratic Black Caucus is an official caucus for the Democratic Party of Virginia. We're also part of the national DNC Black Caucus as well. And our position here in Virginia is to try to educate the leadership of Virginia on the importance of the Black vote. We also try to educate our Black citizens about the value of having Democrats in office and what it can do to improve our community. We also work to elect Blacks and other minorities, not just here on the state, but we do local We do, of course, Congress, and we're also the work for the White House. So we try to work on every level to ensure that we have representation. So
Anything you guys
I've been doing this for a lot of years, so I'm really and happy about the changes and the progression we made, which is one of the reasons I mentioned that we have 2 Black people leading right now in the state.
So talk a little bit about this year. This is a really significant year. You heard us talk about the Virginia elections that just happened in 21. Talk a little bit about what you see as the challenges moving forward, though, and really a little bit about what strategies you guys are thinking about to support the mission.
Well, I heard some of the other guests talking about how they were going to talk about Republicans and all the negative things they've done. I think that is good. But we also have to talk about all the great things that the Democrats have done. I mean, when we look at particularly Biden's numbers are down right now, but he has, in his first 9 months of office, he there were more jobs made during his first 9 months than all 4 of the past Republican presidents put together, double. He has done 75 nominations for federal judges. 40% of those, over 50% of those have already been appointed. And of those that were appointed, 53% were people of color and 83% were women. So we have to talk about the good things that we are doing, because people just don't want to hear about the bad from that the other people are doing. They want to hear what we have done good and what good we're going to continue to do. So we have to do both of those.
Yeah,
I could go on and on about the good things. I mean, particularly like when you talk about the woman's right, I think the young lady Laurel just mentioned that the Protect Our Kids bill just passed, and it only had 3 Republicans to vote for it. Think about that. The democratically controlled House got it through, as we know they do, because they do a good job getting those bills that support our community through. But only 3 Republicans voted for it. So that's something we've got to say. We have done this great things, but for our young children and our families, but the Republicans aren't supporting us on that. When we look at, let's see, what's the other bill that I'd like to talk about? The Women's Health Bill. There were, that passed back in September of 2021. Not a single Republican voted for that in the House. Not a single one. The John Lewis Voting Rights Act passed the House, sitting in the Senate. Not a single Republican in the House voted for that. So we cannot afford to lose any of our seats in the House. We need to get more so that we have those bills going through really quickly and easily without that Republican naysayers and trying to thwart our progress here in America.
So I absolutely love that. And here's the question that I would have is, that's fantastic, but we have the lowest satisfaction right now, especially among Black voters. And all of these fantastic things have happened. So the question that I would have is, how do we get those messages out? Is there a digital plan? Is there ads? What is it that speaks to that audience so that they can be really informed and excited about all the things that Democrats have actually done that certainly are such an advantage to our community?
You know, we have to start telling the truth. Democrats don't seem to want to brag about the great things that we've done. We are simply want to talk about the bad things that the other people have done, but we need to talk about the great things that we've done. I mean, when you look at our, here in Virginia, the legislature, all of the things that we did in from 2019 to 2021, things that most people don't even know about. Do you know that you can't even get stopped by the police anymore if the tags on your car expire? Police can't stop you for that anymore. Most people don't even know those good things that we've done, but yet and still, last year, we lost control of the Virginia House of Delegates. That should never have happened. We were not talking about the right things. We were not telling them about the good things we've done. We need to start talking and telling people about the good things we've done for them and move and let them know that we are going to continue to do those good things.
I love that. And I'm going to also really love it when I see some memes and some GIFs and some digital spaces where people are, so that we can talk about it. But I want us to be able to see it too, because the work that you guys have done is too good not to be seen in every single corner. So that is pretty awesome. So can we talk a minute about Juneteenth?
Yes, I am so happy to talk about Juneteenth, because this is actually the 16th year that we, the Democratic Black Caucus, has done Juneteenth. And each year we've started doing so many sort of iterations of it. We had dinners, we had cookouts, different things like that. But we started doing a luncheon about 5 years, maybe 6 years ago. And maybe it was really like sort of the sweet spot for us. I'll tell you how long we've been doing this. LeVar Stoney was the executive director of the Democratic Party when we started doing this. Now he is Mayor LeVar Stoney, the mayor of Richmond. So we've been doing this for a very long time. So as a matter of fact, he was the person that pulled me into the Black Caucus, LeVar.
Oh, wow. So let me ask you this question. So we've had to educate a lot of folks around about Juneteenth, and I call it giving grace, which is that's what happens when we realize the importance of something, then we want to share it and tell it, and we want to give grace to those who need to understand it. So if you were just going to give a 60 seconds to folks who don't understand what Juneteenth is and why it's so important, what would you say to them?
Let's see here. Well, of course, Juneteenth is the time when the enslaved persons in Texas learned that they had actually been free for over 2.5 years. And I smile at it because it's comical to us now, but just think about it. You've had your freedom was given by the Emancipation Proclamation. And by the way, the Emancipation Proclamation only freed the enslaved in 11 states. They did not free all across the United States. That's another thing we try to do during the Juneteenth, is to give a little education about the Black history in this country. So we, that particular one, the very next year and that was in 1865, Juneteenth stands for June 19th. It's sort of a combined word that they use, and that's why it's called Juneteenth. And it is something that was celebrated. They called it Jubilee Day the next year after it happened in Texas. And Texas was the first state to actually make it a state holiday, and that was in 1979. Here in Virginia, we actually made it a state holiday in 2020. And last year, it became a national holiday. So again, Virginia was ahead of the ball, but I'll tell you, one of the reasons that Virginia made it a state holiday is because of singer-songwriter Pharrell. He actually wrote the governor and advocated for making Juneteenth a holiday. And now he does a big Juneteenth event. And that's going to be happening in Washington. It's going to be a 2-day event. Our Juneteenth, we're going to have Senator Kaine, Bobby Scott, as always, Delegate Bagby, Charnel Herring, Senator Jennifer McClellan will be there. And this year, we are honoring the past, embracing the future. And so we're going to have a panel of what we're calling young politicos. These are young Black people who have decided to get involved at a young age and work to move our democratic values forward. And we are so excited about these young people. We can't wait till everyone hears all the great things they've done and inspire all of the other young people to get involved. So.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, EJ. You know, one of the things that I love about Juneteenth, and it's really small, is that they love to wear white once the celebration started, because they had to wear really drabby, horrible clothes. And so they wanted to burst out, and they love white because it was beautiful and pure and clean. So I think that's
and their hats. Don't forget their hats.
And don't forget the hats. Wonderful. Thank you, EJ, so much. Katherine, I will turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, EJ. And I'm looking forward to Juneteenth. And I just love our show today. It's been great. I want to thank our guests, Rachel BITECOFER and EJ Scott. Thank you for making time and space for the Friday Power Lunch. And remember, everybody in the room that attended, you will get the recap. So you won't miss a thing. You won't miss a link. And make sure that if you like what you see, support us via Patreon. We love that support. And also follow us on all the social media. I want to say thank you to the team in the room that makes this happen every week. Robin Warner, show wizard up there with, who do you have? Monty maybe with you? I'm not sure who's the kitty on your left.
It's Jules today.
Jules today. All right. Welcome, Jules. And Stair Calhoun up there, ambassador of Buzz, with her badass shirt on. And I know she probably has her colorful leggings on today. And Fennell Norton, always bringing it for show messenger. And Heidi Dragneff, our social diva, who was coming up for the Nova Woman Summit with her kids. I think I'll need a tranquilizer for her when she gets here, but thank you, Heidi. And also to our wonderful new intern, Karamai. She's in the room. She's been doing a lot of social media for us. And thank you, Laura Martinez, coming every week and will be at the Women's Summit. Thank you for our Zoom crew helpers and our newcomer chat liaison, Michelle McKinney. Thank you, Michelle, for helping everybody learn the room. And also to our content concierge, Julie Galdo and Sally Renhold. Thank you always. Next week, I want to tell everybody we're going to have a great show. We're going to have Wes Gobar here from the Black Oak Collective on environmental justice. We also will have Jonathan Drumgoole from the Latino Virginia Dems, and we will have the mayor of Manassas. Mayor Davis Younger will be here talking about, she's the first Black mayor of Manassas. She's going to talk about her new program called Looking Like My Mayor. And then Delegate Simon will be here to unpack some stuff around the budget and what's going on in session. So we hope we'll see you next Friday in the room. Stay for the after chat, get your ticket for the summit, and let's see you this weekend. Get on your marching shoes and keep in the fight. It's all about organizing. It's all about showing up. And I'm glad you showed up for the Power Lunch today. So thank you, everybody.